This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 65 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we'll give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. Welcome to this very special Labor Day edition of the Jumblethink podcast. When it's a holiday on an episode, we always do something a little different, change it up. Today, we're going to be giving you 10 tips to becoming a dreamer. Maybe you've had a big idea, maybe you have a dream, and you just don't know where to start. Today is about giving you some tips and tools on how you can make that a reality. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to jump into that in a moment. On Thursday's episode, I am super excited about our guest. His name's Eric Bryant. I've known Eric for several years now. He worked at Mosaic Church under Erwin McManus, and now he is the lead pastor of one of the campuses for Gateway Church in Austin, Texas. 10 years ago, he wrote a book called Peppermint-Filled Pinatas. Super cool book. He is now in version 3 of that book, and it's been retitled called Not Like Me, Learning to Love, Serve, and Influence Our Divided World. It's a timely book. It's a great conversation about important topics. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you check that out this Thursday. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, welcome to today's episode. My name is Michael Woodward. I am the host of the Jumblethink podcast. Traditionally, we do an interview-based podcast, but today we're going to be talking about 10 tips to becoming a dreamer as we celebrate this Labor Day. First off, happy Labor Day to you. If you're a part of the American workforce, this day is all about celebrating the American labor movement, giving rights to workers. And ultimately, we've made it into the end of summer celebration. So I hope that this summer has been awesome for you and that you have some incredible adventures planned for this fall. Fall is my favorite time of the year. So I am super excited as we go from summer into fall and all the festivities that happen during this season. I think being a dreamer and having big ideas on Labor Day is such a great thing to talk about because when we talk about Labor Day, we're talking about workers' rights and ultimately workers finding true freedom in what they choose to do, whether that's as a worker, you choose to work in the workforce and have a traditional job or being an entrepreneur, working in a startup or as a freelancer. All of these are choices that as Americans, we've been privileged to be able to chase our dreams and make our own course. It's a pretty powerful thing and one to be celebrated. So today we're going to be giving you some tips on how you can become a dreamer and how you can create your American dream, your dream for your life and create the world you want to live in. I think so often there are a couple camps here. There's the camp that says you should be the good boy, you should go get the job, have sustainability, have that steady paycheck, get the benefits, get the pension if you can find it anymore, and you should live safe. And for some people, chasing that dream is their dream. They want to be a professor or they want to go work as a mechanic, and getting those jobs are their dreams. And so we want to encourage that. For others, they may want to create their own course, chart their own course into the unknown, and they may want to start a business, whether it's a traditional business or a startup that is creating something that's never happened before. For others, they like the sustainability and the course of a traditional job, but they want to be their own boss. So they create a business where they're a freelancer, and maybe instead of working in an agency, they're working for their own, but they're still creating amazing content. So often, these different camps pit themselves against each other. Oh, you're just a captive employee. Oh, you are, just the bum who doesn't really have a real job. And we judge these different camps, and that's not cool. That's not good. And there's nothing wrong to going to college, or there's nothing wrong to going to a trade school, and there's nothing wrong with just going on your own and creating something unique and special. All of these things can fulfill the dreams and destinies for individuals. And this journey of being a dreamer is very much an individual thing. There is no cookie cutter, this is the way it should look, or everyone needs to follow this model, or this is the only way to do it. In our journey of being dreamers, of makers, innovators, and influencers, we're going to create our own path, and we need to celebrate each other's path. So today in this episode, as I give these 10 tips, these are tips that I've experienced in my journey, things that have helped me, whether they're things I learned from somebody else, whether they're things I explored on my own, whatever that place that I found these are tips that I really found helpful for me in my journey to becoming a dreamer. And I wanted to pass them on to you and hopefully encourage you, no matter what that dream is, whether it's to go work in a machine shop and create cars for GM, or whether it's being a high-end lawyer, or whether it's being an educator as a kindergarten teacher. It doesn't matter what your journey looks like as long as you're taking the risk to chase that dream and idea. I think it's more important to look at it from this point of view. So often we try to make it look right instead of creating a path that really fulfills us as individuals, that really meets our destiny of who we're created to be. So let's jump into these 10 tips. Tip number 1 is all about introspection. You've got to start with identity to really be a dreamer or have a big idea. You need to know who you are at the very core of who you are. What do you stand for? What do you stand against? What do you believe in? So tip number 1 is get alone and ask difficult questions. Some of these questions could be, what am I good at? What am I bad at? What do I like doing? What do I hate doing? What are the things that I'm passionate about that I keep on going on and on and on about, and people tell me, stop talking about it? Find those things and ask the deep questions. When you start listening to that quiet voice, when you start hearing what's being said to you, when you really look at yourself, you're going to find that you're either really happy with what you like about yourself, or you're really not going to like yourself, and you're going to have to adjust. And in that process, you've really got to dig deep, because if you don't push deep into it, you're only going to have a surface life. And having a life that is a life of a dreamer and one that's living big ideas, you have to be a person of depth. And that can be a scary place. You have to conquer your fears. You have to conquer the things that hurt and really process those so that you can step into that place of dreaming. So step number 1, get alone and ask difficult questions. Tip number 2 is an extension of the first tip, and that is write it down. So often we have a big idea and we're processing it in our head, and just that simple act of writing it down makes it more real. You can start diving deep into the actual idea and dream. So you've wrestled in step 1 and tip number 1 with yourself. Now you're wrestling with the idea. Maybe you have an idea to start a new business, and writing it down, you can just start very simple. My new business will do X, Y, or Z. And then you can begin to unwrap the different layers of that dream and idea. Dive deep into it, explore it. Why are you passionate about it? Why is this idea so significant to you? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What are your fears about it? Deal with all of these different things and write it down. That could be as simple as journaling, but it could also be creating a bucket list. These are the things I want to accomplish with my big idea or with my life. And as a dreamer, as a person with big ideas, you've really got to have that battle plan. And when you write it down and then you start creating that strategy off of your written plan, it really helps to take you really, really deep. So tip number 2, write it down. Tip number 3 is all about community. Innovation, being a dreamer, having big ideas happens best in community. And so part 1 is start talking to family and friends about your idea, your dreams. Start sharing about it. Start sharing why you're so excited about it. Start sharing how it might look or what it could be, and start listening to the feedback. Now, there are going to be people there who give you good feedback, and they encourage you, and they know you, and they're going to give you feedback on the things you need to do, and that's really, really helpful. Now, there are going to be people there that are also jealous of that big idea and dream, and the fact that you're willing to be audacious enough to actually chase it, they're going to be kind of bitter towards you. You've got to step back and be able to filter through the healthy relationships and the hurtful relationships so that you can start really having dialogues that help you iterate to hash through the idea and the dream. Beyond the friends and family, tip number 4 is find a mentor or coach. As you dive deeper into the idea and dream, you need someone that's either been down the road before or has worked with other people in the same kind of space to help you get a grasp of your big idea and dream. That mentor, that coach, that sage on the journey will really walk through the hard times. And sometimes you'll come against a challenge and you just need a second pair of eyes, and that mentor and coach can give you that perspective. Sometimes you may come in and you may just hit a wall and you really just need to push through, and that mentor and coach can help give you a strategy to push through that wall. And sometimes that mentor and coach is a person protecting you of the things that you don't see or don't know exist. So finding that mentor and coach is really, really significant. It's going to be a really important part of your journey. Tip number 5 is all about what I call micro experiments, trial and error. I think so often we stop chasing our dreams or our big ideas because they seem just unattainable, that you can't reach them. They're too big and you don't know where to start. Simplify that idea down to the simplest form and then make that step. Test it. Is there an audience for this? Are there customers for this? Are there people that like what you're creating? If you want to be a baker, maybe you want to open a bake shop. You may want to make the best cakes in the world or whatever that looks like. And you just go, well, I need $50,000 plus a location to start that up because I need stoves and ovens and materials and this and that and the other thing. Well, maybe you could start just seeing if people like your baking. Maybe you make the best pies in the world. Well, you can start making those pies, testing it out, see if family members and friends go, oh yeah, I'd pay $15 for that. And they'd give you that money. From there, you could step one step further and get a certification or find a kitchen that you could use that's already in place and start baking for restaurants or stores that might want a boutique pie or a cake or whatever that is. And then from there, as you're growing that business, as you're growing that dream, all of a sudden you have the stepping stones to take you from one place to the next place so that you can get further into creating that dream. So take and simplify your dream down, have micro experiments, try it out, see what succeeds, see what fails, and move forward. Tip number 6 is finding others in the field that you are in and talking to them. Maybe you want to be an attorney. You could go find other attorneys in the specific field that you want to work in. And you could sit down with them, take them to lunch, grab a coffee with them, and just pick their mind and say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. Am I on the right track? Get their perspective on it, but also ask them about the unseens, the things that you wouldn't know going into this idea or dream. They're going to be able to help give you perspective that you don't have. And you may go, oh, this sounds like the job I've always wanted. Or it may sound like, I don't know if I want this job. Either way, by exploring with people that are in the space that you want to create can help you get a perspective so you know if this is what you want to do. Tip number 7. This one is difficult. Push through the discouragements. You are going to fail in your journey to create the big idea and dream. There is no such thing as the overnight success. People say there is, but the reality is when you dig into those stories, most of the time you find out that the success was hard work and years in the making. I think of Walt Disney, and I think about his journey of creating the Walt Disney Company and creating Mickey and everything like that. And it was a hard road. He had failed businesses. He had relationships that were strained. And in that process, he had to push through the failure so he could see his dream realized. And he went on to create one of the most influential media companies that the globe has ever seen. It's pretty powerful stuff. But if he would have given up when he got discouraged or when things were rough or when things had failed, we wouldn't know this amazing company that we see now that is making theme parks and cruises and movies and cartoons and so much more than I think even Walt Disney dreamed at first. So in that discouragement and in that failure, push through. Tip number 8. So often we dream small. We've got to think bigger. We've got to go deep into our ideas. We've got to go deep into our thoughts. We've got to go deep into the dreams and really process what could be. Sometimes our dreams aren't big enough and we need to dream bigger. And so when we're in that process of dreaming, I talked about the micro experiments earlier. You've also got to have a bigger perspective. Step back. Look at the bigger picture of the dream. How will this impact your family? How will this impact your friends? How will this impact your community? How will this change the world? Whether it's small scale or a big scale, it doesn't matter. But dream bigger and create something even more special. Tip number 9, adjust. Set goals and expectations, but don't be surprised if things don't go as expected. So often we have expectations. I have this big idea and this dream, and it's going to equal this. And along the journey, as you study people who have been dreamers, people with big ideas, and they've created it, often the big idea and dream that they end up with wasn't what they thought it was going to be at the first part of their journey. And you've got to be okay with letting your idea and dream evolve and change and grow. Ideas and dreams can be living entities in a lot of ways. They can take on a life of their own. And in that, when it doesn't meet your expectations, have a good perspective on what it has become. Sometimes it becomes something way better than you could ever imagine. And you end up in unexpected places that are fulfilling you at levels that you never imagined. That secondary dream, that unexpected dream that showed itself in that process really goes into a place that's even better than what you could have imagined. So adjust. Let your dream and idea shift and grow and evolve through the life cycle of that dream. Tip number 10, celebrate your victories, even the small ones. So often it is the big victories we're looking for, but every time you have a little victory, celebrate it somehow. I had a business coach several years ago, and he would have us set, we were in a group, a mastermind, and he would have us set 3 goals for the month. And then what would we do when we reached those goals? See, reaching those goals, a lot of people think that that's the end result, but the end of that is celebrating the victory. We've got to celebrate more. We've got to have more fun. Chasing a big idea and dream shouldn't just be all sweat and tears and blood, and it should be fun in the process. So when we have those victories, celebrate them. And sometimes we even celebrate the failures because the failures lead us to something else. I know I said this is going to be 10 tips to becoming a dreamer, but I'm going to give you a bonus tip. And I think it's one that's really significant for most people that are dreamers, that have big ideas. You can't do this on your own. So often we think this is my idea, this is my dream, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to put in the work. This is going to be my thing. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to guard it. No one else is going to tell me differently, and that's a dangerous place. You truly never meet or reach a big idea or dream on your own. Ideas and dreams happen in community, whether that's a family member that supported you, whether that's a friend, whether that's employees. No matter what it is, you need help. Don't do it on your own. You'll find so much more joy in the journey if you step back and include others. Community is a key to being a big dreamer and ideas. And ultimately, it makes it a lot more fun. So here's a little recap of our 10 tips for becoming a dreamer. Number 1, get alone, ask difficult questions. Number 2, write it down. Number 3, talk to your friends and family members, get their perspective. Number 4, find a mentor or coach. Number 5, try micro experiments, the simplest way to see if you're on track. Number 6, talk to others in the field that you want to work in. Number 7, push through the discouragements. Number 8, think bigger. Number 9, adjust and evolve your idea. Number 10, celebrate your victories. And our bonus tip is figure out where you need help and get community around you. I hope these 10 tips have really helped you on your journey to becoming a dreamer. On this Labor Day, start thinking about the things that you really want to be doing, the dreams that you have, the ideas that you want to chase, and really dive deep into that. If you need some help along your journey, or you want to dive deeper into one of these 10, 11 with the bonus tips, drop me a message. You can email me, mike@jumblethink.com. You can swing on over to jumblethink.com, go to our contact page, drop us a note that way, or you can swing on over to Facebook or Instagram and drop us a message. We want to hear from you. I want to help you on your journey. And if you want to go deeper into one of these topics, one of these tips that I gave you, let me know. I'd love to have a discussion. Thanks for listening. Have a great Labor Day and kick off this fall really, really well and start chasing your big idea and dream. It's going to be worth it. I hope this episode has really encouraged you and given you some tools that you can use on your journey to chase your big idea and dream. On Thursday's episode, we have Eric Bryant. He is the lead pastor of the South Campus of Gateway Church in Austin, Texas. He wrote a book several years ago called Peppermint-Filled Pinatas. It is now in its 3rd version coming out this week. It's called Not Like Me, Learning to Love, Serve, and Influence Our Divided World. That's a timely conversation that we need to be having. It's a really fun episode. We talk about a lot of cool stuff around diversity, around community, and around moving from tolerance into a place of embrace. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to check that out this Thursday. Next week on Monday's episode, we have Leland Jones. He's an entrepreneur, CEO, founder, author, speaker. He started a company called T-Quotes. They make really cool t-shirts and authored a book called A Journey with Purpose. What's really impressive about Leland is he's done all of this and he's only 18 years old. This episode will really encourage you, no matter what your age, that dream, that idea that you put on the shelf when you were young, maybe you were a teenager, maybe you were in college, maybe it's time to go back and revisit that and create the dream that you've always longed to have. Go back to that bookshelf, pull it off, dust it off, and start moving forward and chasing that big idea and dream. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check out that episode next week with Leland Jones. Once again, I always want to hear from you. It's easy to reach us. Drop me an email, mike@jumblethink.com. Swing on over to jumblethink.com/contact. Drop us a note through the contact form or find us on any of our social channels and shoot us a message. We check every message. I personally actually answer every message. I want to hear from you. I want to hear about your struggles, your success, your joys, your failures, and how we can help you on your journey to create the world you want to live in. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great Labor Day.
Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.